alternate opening for Ralph Stories, L.A. Well, it's number 69, you idiot. This is for playback June 26, 1965, take one.
A towering object has risen at the corner of Hauser and Wilshire. It looks like nothing else in Los Angeles. We catch ourselves wondering what it is and why it is there. And in a moment, we'll search for an answer. You know, there are always the timid among us who want to keep things the way they are because any change might be for the worse. Their warning used to be, don't rock the boat. Of course, that's not in anymore. Today, you're supposed to say, don't make waves. Otherwise, you'd be rocking the boat. But along with the timid, there are always agitators among us who prefer to make waves. And one of them is a citizen of our town named Claire Falkenstein. Now, Miss Falkenstein, you see, is an artist. And artists who don't make waves often go completely unremembered. So when Claire Falkenstein was commissioned to create a fountain for the new California Federal Building on Wilshire, just down the street from the new art museum, she deliberately made a very big wave. She made it out of copper and bronze tubing and hunks of colored glass in her backyard near the beach in Venice. But it did not look like the waves on the beach, and when it crested on Wilshire Boulevard, it touched off a wild spray of reaction. One critic called it a superb piece of art. Another saw it only as a mad jungle of copper, bronze, glass, and hissing water. A wave lover was sure it was comparable to the fountains of Rome, but a wave hater was certain it was planned to clash with all the beauty around it. Well, as we all know, it isn't really the critics who pass final judgment on artists and their work. It's the masses for whom art is created. So we sent out the world-famous Ralph Story survey team to mingle with the masses and to ask them what they thought of Miss Falkenstein's wave.
Well, I think it's a very beautiful and most unusual piece of work.
It's a step forward, a step into the future, and something a little bit remarkably different. And certainly we can all use something, I think, that would bring the public attention away from staid conservative feelings in our new structures and our new designs.
I guess it's artistic, but I guess you have to understand these things to understand what is the artistic part about it.
Well, personally, I think it's an eyesore.
When you stop to think that a woman has welded that thing all by herself, I think it's amazing.
Well, I think it's a piece of junk, and the person who put it together didn't have any thought. He just had a stomach ache one morning, and he just threw it together, and then he put some pipes and ran some water out of it.
To me, it looks like a truck dropped a load of junk on the way to the junkyard.
Well, I think they could have spent their money more wisely and bought something that looks really nice than this.
It might be good for a museum or something, but I don't think it should be out on a public street.
Well, you see, there's really no need to get all worked up. Historically, the masses have passed infallible judgment on all art, from pre-Phidias to post-Picasso. And in time, they will render a decision on Claire Falkenstein's fountain. In the meantime, all we have to do is be patient and don't make waves.
Okay, fellas, time to go to bed.
Come on, Johnny, you didn't brush your teeth.
Aw, gee, do I have to? I just don't like the taste of this toothpaste. Mom says it helps fight cavities, but I still get some.
Here, try Colgate. It's the good-tasting anti-cavity toothpaste.
Mom, this is Jim.
Oh, hi, Jim. I bet you've had a terrible time getting Johnny to brush his teeth.
Oh, not at all, Mrs. Hughes. You see,
I use Colgate, Mom. Works just as good and tastes better.
he's right. No toothpaste has been found better for children's teeth than Colgate. And when Colgate was compared to the best-known fluoride, research reported in the Journal of Dentistry for Children confirmed Colgate unsurpassed in reducing new cavities.
Colgate helps stop bad breath. Looks like we're a one-toothpaste family again.
Brush with Colgate, the largest selling anti-cavity toothpaste in the world. Make regular brushing part of the total program of oral hygiene dentists recommend.
May seem to those of you who are new around town that Los Angeles has had only one mayor, and Sam Yorty is his name. Now, this isn't exactly true. The town has had other mayors in the last 115 years, 43 of them, as a matter of fact, if you want to include William Stevens. His term only lasted 7 days. But the present administration at City Hall has now stated, for the record, that there have been mayors previous to the current one, and this may or may not be a wise thing to admit. In fact, Mr. Yorty has gone so far as to issue a public call for old pictures of 3 former Los Angeles mayors whose portraits are missing from our City Hall gallery. Now, I suppose the mayor knows what he's doing, but I hope he realizes that his own image might be overshadowed in the public eye by the color and flourish of some of his predecessors. One of the missing mayors, for example, is Damian Marchessault. He was a dashing New Orleans gambling man who brought his skills to Los Angeles around 1858. Hardly been in town a year before he was elected mayor. And history tells us that Marchessault served 2 terms, eventful terms, during which our town was ravaged by smallpox, fire, flood, and Confederate rioting. And Marchessault swept off the scene with incomparable gallantry in 1868, ending his own life with a pistol bullet in the city council chambers. We have no picture of Mayor Marchessault, so it is chance and not choice that has kept this elegant tin horn from being enshrined in our own City Hall. Also absent is our very first mayor, Alpheus Hodges, a jovial doctor of great personal charm who carried a gun at all times. Dr. Hodges' successor was the famous Indian killer Benjamin Davis Wilson, for whom Mount Wilson is named. Don Benito was elected mayor in 1851. In his younger years, he barely escaped being roasted by the Apaches. He led an expedition into the Mojaves, slaughtering 22 grizzly bears in one day. And he carried the flint of an arrowhead in the flesh of his shoulder until the day he died. Following Wilson in office by 3 years was the energetic Stephen C. Foster. He resigned his office in 1855 so that he could lead a lynching party. Ex-Mayor Foster supervised the impromptu hanging of a convicted murderer named Dave Brown. And so impressed were the citizens of Los Angeles by this forceful display that Foster was immediately re-elected to office and continued to serve through 1856. Stepping down through the years and also stepping along the City Hall gallery of honored mayors, one comes upon the portrait of Arthur C. Harper. Mayor Harper took office in 1906. During his term, he was sharply accused of taking bribes from various sporting establishments and gaming dens around Los Angeles. Harper is distinguished as being the first of our mayors to face a recall movement, but he resigned in 1909 rather than submit his record to the vengeance of the voters. Seems almost a pity to include Mayor George Alexander in our present survey. Alexander was quite blameless in many ways. He was, in fact, a reform candidate who took office in 1909 in the scandalous wake of that Harper administration. Yet Mayor Alexander did one thunderously interesting thing. He selected as chief of police in 1911 a man named Charles E. Sebastian. To do any kind of justice to Charles Sebastian, who became mayor of our town 4 years later, we must step outside the formal gallery of City Hall. Sebastian was, by all accounts, one of the handsomest men who ever rode a horse or who ever touched earth. He had rugged features crowned with billowing gray hair, and if he was not a man with the ladies, then no man in Los Angeles ever was. As chief of police and then as mayor, Charlie Sebastian was the absolute embodiment of all the masculine graces. Feminine hearts were said to melt at his glance. Women were hard put to resist him, and apparently very few did. Working toward election in 1915, Chief Sebastian found himself on trial for contributing to the delinquency of a minor girl. The trial extended through most of his mayoral campaign, but he was acquitted. He survived the trial and an assassination attempt to become the 20th mayor of Los Angeles in 1915. Sebastian's gaiety was short-lived, for he soon came under very heavy attack. Critics claimed he rarely let public affairs stand in the way of his private affairs. The fun-loving mayor resigned office in 1916. And 5 years later, Mrs. Charles Sebastian dragged him through one of the nastiest divorce trials in legal history here. The 1920s found Charlie Sebastian not only robbed of the dignity of office, but refused readmission to the police force by this ungrateful city. He retired to the beach with his mistress and died in 1929, but not before he had earned admittance to our gallery of immortals. His portrait, shining out on this corridor of City Hall, shows the handsomest mayor Los Angeles ever had. One would have to go a long way to find a more colorful chief executive than Charles E. Sebastian. Well, one would have to go all the way to this man, whose name was Frank Shaw. He came to office in 1933, following Sebastian by 18 years. Such was the magnitude of his contribution that, once again, we must step outside the confining portraiture of City Hall. This time we step into the photojournalism of the 1930s, for with all the responsibilities of office, Mayor Shaw found time for ethnic and cultural pursuits. He lent his statesmanlike presence to a number of charitable promotions during his 5 years in office. His colorful demeanor inspired such fervent loyalty among the voters that he was re-elected in 1937. Yet, as colorful as Shaw was personally, it was the Shaw administration that overshadowed all others in terms of historical interest. Almost from the very start, Mayor Shaw came under attack by reform groups in Los Angeles. They resented his choosing as his own private secretary, for instance, his own brother Joe. Reformers went so far as to charge Joe Shaw with being the liaison man between City Hall and the underworld. Leading a grand jury investigation into the Shaw administration was Clifford Clinton, a cafeteria magnate with an unreasoning hatred of bribery and corruption. A bomb in his basement failed to discourage Mr. Clinton. He continued to voice his dark innuendos and to push his investigation of the whole Shaw regime. Elements loyal to City Hall conducted counter-espionage operations against this Clinton and against the men who worked for him. The chief of Clinton's investigators was Mr. Harry Raymond, a talented detective who in 1937 seemed dangerously close to getting the goods on the Shaws. Unknown to Raymond, his home was being watched by 3 members of Frank Shaw's police department from a window in this nearby house. It's unthinkable that they meant Raymond any harm, but on the morning of January 14th, 1938, Harry Raymond had a little trouble starting his car. The resulting blast shook the neighborhood and the city, and it could not fail to cast its shadow on the benevolent regime of Frank Shaw. The difficulty was traced to the electrical system of Harry Raymond's car, in which a black powder bomb had been expertly wired. Now, the bomb did not kill Raymond, though it injured him critically. Pierced by shrapnel in at least 100 places, Raymond survived to testify at the trial of 3 policemen charged with booby-trapping his automobile. The chief defendant in the trial was Police Captain Earl Kynette, head of the department's intelligence squad, charged along with Fred Brown and Roy Allen. Their trial took place in the spring and early summer of 1938. The prosecution implied that the Kynette brand of counter-espionage had somehow overstepped the bounds of good-natured rough-and-tumble City Hall politics. Like the bombing, the 1938 trial was to reflect badly on the incumbent administration of Frank Shaw. There was growing sympathy for reform and also for the martyred figure of Harry Raymond, who delivered his testimony aided by spoons full of restorative medicine administered by a nurse. In the end, the wrath of the jury fell on Captain Earl Kynette, who was convicted and sent to prison along with Roy Allen. Several years later, the wrath of another jury fell on Joe Shaw, who was convicted of selling city jobs to office seekers, but who did not go to jail, charges dismissed on appeal. But by that time, the House of Shaw had collapsed anyway. The wrath of the public fell on Brother Frank in 1938 when a recall vote swept him out of City Hall and out of our history. Thus ended the eventful 1 1/4 term of Mayor Frank Shaw, whose tenure was full of excitement and color and controversy. One must pause in reverence before his portrait, for we owe him a debt. He taught us all how important it is for people to pay attention to local politics. In fact, the interest he stimulated has not been duplicated since. The advent of Fletcher Bowron brings us into modern times. Bowron rode into office on the landslide which bulldozed Frank Shaw from the chair. Mayor Bowron must be remembered for at least one forthright act. He threw a punch at a critic who charged him with drinking martinis. After 14 years, Bowron was replaced by Norris Polson, whose most exciting single adventure lay in the field of diplomacy. He managed to insult Nikita Khrushchev during Mr. Khrushchev's tour of Los Angeles. And so our gallery of mayors is brought to date with a man who has never killed a grizzly, never led a lynch mob, never been shot at, never been accused of bribe taking, in fact, never been accused of anything worse than being power mad. In terms of flamboyant notoriety, we wonder, can Sam Yorty even compare himself with the really great mayors of Los Angeles? Well, he has 3 more years in which to mend his ways, and then we'll let history be the judge.
Oil Town, USA.
Stronger than dirt. New Ajax. Laundry detergent is stronger than dirt.
I live in an oil town. Need I say more? I don't know how many detergents I've tried. My sister made me try the new Ajax. She was right. Ajax makes Bob's T-shirts look as white as the rest of my wash.
New Ajax laundry detergent is stronger than dirt.
They finally did it. Invented a shampoo that leaves my hair so manageable, I dare do this.
And so does he. The shampoo is new, gentle Blue Halo. Makes hair more manageable than he'll ever be. So rich with body. Body that stays and holds. Liquid or concentrate. Blue Halo makes hair more manageable than he'll ever be.
If you have a nagging suspicion that there's something familiar about our latest civic crisis, you're right. Once again, we are told that Los Angeles desperately needs a really efficient rapid transit system. Once again, we are warned that the alternative is strangulation on our own traffic. And once again, experts from City Hall to State House are struggling with this same old problem. Well, if they want to struggle, that's their privilege, I guess, but they really don't have to. Last year, right here on this program, we presented a solution, and they ignored it. But undismayed and full of the spirit of public service, we hereby offer it again, a really efficient rapid transit system. Now, how does this blueprint strike you? 1,200 miles of glistening track, 800 electric cars, take you any place you want to go, and for just a dime. How far ahead do we have to look? 1980, 1990 perhaps? No, 1926. That's right, 1926, for back then, we in Los Angeles had the greatest rapid transit system in the world. We had it, and then we threw it away. The old red cars were great. They went every place. They bracketed greater Los Angeles with 1,200 miles of track during their 60 years. The red cars were not only necessary in the days of mud roads and no automobiles, they were fun to ride on. And they were fashionable, too. I mean, the cars weren't just workaday transportation either. You could go on day-long excursions and you could rattle off on picnics to any number of exotic places. Newport, Owensmouth, Upland, Ontario, even off to Mount Lowe. All this is no comfort to the public and private officials struggling with the transportation problem today and enduring the slings and arrows of outrageous criticism, but they may take comfort from this. The red car system, now so sacred, was itself a prime target once. Rail transit, back around 1905, had its exciting moments. In some cases, tragically exciting moments. During a series of dreadful accidents, the newspapers were quick to lend their guidance and counsel to the red car line. They pointed out that inexperienced motormen were highballing down the rails at murderous speed with lethal effect. The tragedies were reported with a treasure of descriptive detail. So the red car system frantically adjusted its equipment, fixing brakes, renovating signals, but it wasn't enough. Even a non-fatal trip would likely give one a case of the vapors in those days. Smelling salts were standard traveling equipment. Survivors claimed the trainmen were careless and rude. So in 1913, Pacific Electric put together this film you now see, an instruction movie for red car conductors, the do's and don'ts of etiquette. Well, it was not only bad safety, for instance, to pull away from the platform, leaving customers with one foot in the air. It was bad manners, too. On the other hand, too much courteous attention to one customer might mean that another would be neglected, and this was bad. All customers must be treated well, not just the customers with shapely ankles. Excessive eagerness at the controls was discouraged in this 1913 training film. Made it difficult for disembarking passengers and for company lawyers who had to defend against the damage claims. The menace of the rail crossing was apparent too. Now you had to watch out not only for cows and carriages, you had to watch out for motor cars. And neatness counted on the old red cars. It didn't do for trainmen to get sloppy with their schedules. Otherwise, the red cars might just meet themselves, coming and going. And this was considered very poor form. No way to run a railroad. Sloppy trainsmanship could never avoid those incidental dangers, though, that no one can foresee. But careful trainsmanship combined with 20/20 vision and good brakes were a great help in preserving life and limb and protecting the image of the red car line. Well, as we all know, the old Pacific Electric red car line managed to live through that critical age, and it became not only the greatest streetcar system in the world, but one of the safest, too. It served Los Angeles for a little more than 60 years. It was hounded out of existence by that pushy little immigrant from Detroit, the automobile. And it was helped along its fatal journey by the people of Los Angeles, whose brilliant public policy took the red cars off the rails, surrendered the invaluable rights of way, and then just for good measure tore up all the tracks too. This was progress, where once you had been able to get from Los Angeles to Santa Monica in half an hour for just a dime. Now you're lucky to get there at all. So now, ladies and gentlemen, instead of a working system knitting together all of Los Angeles, we have a dwindling number of bus lines which were inadequate to begin with. And in our public offices, we have planners straining to come up with some kind of a miracle which, if it succeeds, might just give us a rapid transit system not nearly as comprehensive as the one we had 40 years ago and threw away.
Lark? Lark? Lark?
Lark?
Lark?
Lark? Lark?
Lark? Lark?
Lark? Lark?
Tastes are changing. People are looking for new flavor in smoking now. They're looking for smoking enjoyment. They're looking for smoothness. They find both in Lark, because only Lark's filter has 2 outer sections plus an inner chamber of charcoal granules. There is nothing like a Lark. If you're looking for a cigarette that's richly rewarding, uncommonly smooth, try Lark. There is nothing like a Lark.
When there's a job to be done, the Honda Trail 90 meets the challenge. Whether it's on the ranch or on the farm, you'll find the Honda Trail 90 a big help. Powerful, economical, versatile. Saves you time and money, too. Takes you over all kinds of terrain. And the Honda Trail 90 has the only standard equipment spark arrested, approved for use in all national forests. It's the ideal bike for hunters and fishermen, too. No wonder the Honda has become the most popular trail machine in the country. Honda, world's biggest seller.
Visit your nearby Honda dealer and test drive any of the 15 Honda models on display. Remember, you meet the nicest people on a Honda.
You know the old saying about umpires, may be hard work, but you can't beat the hours? Well, a lot of people have the same idea about Santa Claus. One busy night, you know, the rest of the year off, but that's hardly the truth. I can tell you, anyone as successful as Santa Claus does not have to spend all of his time in that impossible northern climate. So next week, we'll find out where Santa Claus spends the summer and what he does. Until then, Ralph Story here. Good night.